What's up, guys? Welcome to the Big Black Clock podcast.
I love how he's always struggling with saying it properly.
I take my time. I have to.
Episode 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
You made it.
Has it been that many?
Guys, we made it.
I didn't quit yet, so it's good.
People know us.
And
I can't
today-
walk down the street anymore.
So people know us. Just to people who don't know us because they're new to the podcast, let's say.
Yeah.
I'm Karl. I'm with Kevin
Hello.
and Dimitri.
Hola.
Today is going to be a mouthful.
Yeah, that's
It's,
the BBC, right?
History today,
Big
right?
Black Clock.
Well, history. It's more what brand watches that we like, or watches that brand that we.
It's
English,
yeah, it's
Karl.
difficult.
Yes,
English.
whiskey.
A brand that we're into. So we drink on this podcast.
Oh,
Disclaimer.
Sorry. Let me open my product.
There you go. There you go.
So Dimitri is drinking Stella Artois, and if Stella want to sponsor this podcast in any way, we'll always say yes.
Money.
Money, beers, even if they can send watches. I don't know.
Yeah, if Stella Artois can send me watches, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's go for it. And
You keep the beer.
Your premium watches,
me and Kevin,
just like your beer.
as last time, we're drinking Maker's Mark whiskey.
Yeah.
So from Kentucky.
Little whiskeys here.
Ice.
There you go.
I'll take some ice too.
Just an extra cube here, and then we're gonna
Yeah.
get this started. Today's a little bit of a mouthful. We'll go in
Let's start.
favorite brand and why. But before,
I would say the way I interpreted this podcast was not necessarily a favorite brand because I obviously have many.
no,
This was something that I'm fascinated with, a brand that I'm
Yes.
really, really impressed with.
who we're really into,
Yeah.
Lately.
yeah, and why, and what it means to us, why we got into it, that sort of thing.
Let's start with a quick wristwatch check, and I think we'll
you
go
go
first.
first? You go
Okay,
first.
perfect. I'm still wearing my Sumo that I wore last time, and it just doesn't come off now. I bought it recently, and I think I'm in my honeymoon period with this
The
watch.
green one, right?
Yeah, it's the Hulk. I
Third
just
gen.
bought it a few months ago. It's a beautiful watch. I wear it almost every day, everywhere. I changed the bracelet to a strap code bracelet.
Have you worn it swimming at all?
Not yet.
Or in the shower?
I don't have a shower watch. Maybe Karl has a shower watch.
I thought you could.
Yes.
Thank God you said watch. So I kind of have a shower. I was like, how filthy are you?
It's nice that my sentence didn't
You
finish right
need
there.
a shower.
Quick question.
Dishwatch,
So you said
shower watch.
Hulk. Is it its name online?
No.
No,
No,
Okay,
we just-
that's the
I
sub,
call
right?
it the Hulk. Yeah.
So
It's the
okay, so
communities call it that.
yeah, I'll call it the She-Hulk for you.
Why do you call it the She-Hulk?
Women are.
Is there a logic in there, or is it just
You
being
don't
very
know-
sexist for
you
no
don't know
reason?
you don't know Marvel. She-Hulk is the wife of Hulk. It's the green.
Okay.
Okay.
Ugh.
Anyway,
Well, you didn't have to. Yeah.
Ugh.
shut up, nerd.
Ugh. I'm wearing the.
Let's just ignore that what just happened.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
It's just
So I'm wearing my Sumo.
we can edit that
Green.
out.
No, just leave it. I want our listeners to learn about our personalities.
Green sumo.
I'm just
She-Hulk.
yeah. I'm
Go.
just wearing my green Sumo Hulk.
She-Hulk.
Not sexist. Just the Hulk.
So, Kevin, what are you wearing today?
I'm wearing something a little bit more design. It's the new iPod, Megapod. So it's revitalized for those who are unaware. After the iPod brand closed in '94, which was they closed up shop. In 2012. They were founded in 1994 by Mark Newsom and Olivier Ike. So Mark Newsom, a lot of people may not know him, designer, created the Apple Watch.
Apple Watch design.
Yes. Well, that was Apple. But he does the design. The brand was reborn. More accessible price point. Those watches were ridiculous, $10,000 and plus. And Christian Louis Cole rebought the brand in 2007 and revived it.
The original ones, they're super expensive, are still available. Can you find them online?
Sure.
It's still expensive?
About $3,000 to $5,000 US.
Wow, that's a lot of money then.
They did. They're designer watches. What's cool about this watch is it has like a very like pod shape. This watch is actually 46 millimeters.
It's huge.
It's huge, but it doesn't sit that way on the wrist. Not like my Panerai, because it has no lugs. It's like a UFO saucer. The profile is really unique and cool. It has this like bombed sapphire crystal, a Mayota high beat watch, a 9093. And it's designed by Alexandre Peraldi, who was the designer at Richemont Group, who was with Cartier, and most recently in Baume and Mercier. So it comes on a rubber band. And I really have to say one thing. Great brand because the experience was great. I went on Kickstarter when they came out because they really wanted to get funding for their second iteration. They're coming out with more. And I was speaking directly with him. I speak French because he's from Switzerland. He's French businessman. And we were chatting. And I was asking him questions. And he wrote me a handwritten note when I got it. So I got a good discount because it was on Kickstarter. Great experience.
Nice customer service then.
Great experience. And I have to say, that's a little bit in link with what connected me to the brand I'm really into. It has a lot to do with the experience or the story behind it all. So that's what I'm wearing today. Great watch. Really suggested. So mine is the iPod Megapod, the white dial with the numbered indices and the orange hand. So the actual, because I think it's important we say it, I'm going to give you guys the actual reference number.
Is it super complicated like most watch brands?
No,
Really?
really,
Is it like almost three numbers?
It's not. It's like fucking 3 numbers.
Oh, I like those.
Like those. Megapod. I have the. I'm going to tell you guys right now. It's the M005 Walter. It's called.
Walter?
Yeah. They retail right now for 1,290 euros. So, but I got mine at a good deal. The Kickstarter price is like 40%.
Is it exactly the same like you can buy now? Or was it a founder edition?
Excuse me?
Was it a founder edition? Because there's some watches company when they do
No.
Kickstarters, they
No,
do a
no,
different case back just because it was a Kickstarter.
No.
Okay.
There's not. They have a different versions of it. They had one that was Alexandre. They call it the M201 by Alexandre. So the designer, this was his take on it. But it's very close to what the other iPods used to be. So I think it's a really cool watch, very different from anything I own. A lot of people either hate it or they love it. But I have to say, super comfortable on the wrist. Rubber strap, which Karl and Dimitri, I really like.
I also like rubber straps.
You both like...
Moving on. Moving on. So that's what I'm wearing today.
Cool.
You, Karl?
As of last week, because I'm someone who wear watches. When I wear watches, I wear them most of the time for a long time. So sometimes a week or two at a time.
Why?
I don't know. It just...
Like a phase?
Pretty much.
Mm.
I just, when in the morning, my watch is in the same drawer as all my boxers. So, cool story, but this is what I...
Never buy a watch from Karl.
They're in cases. But yeah, so in the morning when I dress up, I decide if I change watches or I keep the same as yesterday. Because always on my nightstand next to me.
I'm like you. I get into phases and like, this watch is getting crazy amounts of wrist time.
Yeah.
And then,
And sometimes I switch every day. It really depends, right?
Yeah.
Or the activities I'm planning on that day could affect that too. But yeah, so I'm still wearing my Tudor Heritage Ranger as of last week. One of my favorite watch. But since I'm wearing the same thing, I wanted to take some of my wrist check time today to talk about something I read.
Wait, you can read?
Sometimes. There was a lot of pictures in it.
Okay. That makes sense. It was an audiobook, wasn't it?
Yeah. I didn't do audio article yet.
Yeah.
So it's context of last time when me and Kevin went to our Rolex authorized dealer here in Montreal. One of them, at least.
Yes.
I'm really crushing on the Air King lately. And when we went there, we asked to be on the list because as any Rolex dealer does, they don't have any watches that you want in stock at all, right? You have to be on the list, wait for them to call you to have the chance because it's, of course, not a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Are you mighty enough to
Right.
have a Rolex? So Kevin goes, I'll take I think it was a sub, right? No date, black dial.
Hell yeah.
So, and I was like, oh, can I enlist for 2 watches? And they pretty much laughed.
Yeah.
Laughed for a long time. And they go, no, it's only 1. So I had to choose between my crush, who was the Air King, and a sub because, it's a sub. It's easy to wear. It's the watch. So I went with the sub, but between then and now, I read online that the Bloodhound program. So if people don't know what it is, it's a land speed record vehicle. It's pretty much a car with jet engines on it to go.
Maybe to give some context, the Air King is a watch that's been around since the 30s. It's the version of the watch that went up in 33 in the first flight over Everest. It's been around, and it's considered one of the more accessible and entry-level Rolex models. And I was looking at some old versions of it in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and it made, the one you're about to talk about, is drastically different than any Air King that existed in the past. And you're going to explain why.
Yeah. So to go back to the Bloodhound program, it's a land speed record vehicle.
What is that?
So it's, there's planes who go Mach 1, 2, and 3 if they're lucky.
What's that? What is this word? Planning?
It's like a bird. It's like a bird with a fixed wing, right?
Exactly, right? It runs on fuel. And there's people who are crazy enough and want to do the same thing on the ground, right? So the Bloodhound program was
fuel on the ground.
Yes, it's a vehicle to go really, really fast. Do you understand now?
Honestly, I don't understand
I'm
anything.
still stuck on plane. I don't know what you...
Like a level playing field?
So, Bloodhound program, we want to go really fast in a car as a jet engine stuck on the back, right? It used to be an NLC run by universities in the UK. And Rolex was part of the sponsors and the program. So, part of the branding, I guess, they did 2 gauges on the car. So one was for the speed, and if I'm not mistaken, one was for the RPM of the engine. And they're huge, and they're really prominent when you look inside the cockpit of the Bloodhound.
So, just for anyone who's listening, they stopped making the Rolex Air King in 2014. And it was essentially replaced by the other affordable entry-level Rolex, which is the Oyster Perpetual. So you can find those for about $4,500 US, like $6,000. Right? They have them in 39, they have them in 36, and then 34. And the 34 has those like numbers like the Explorer. But these were essentially, this replaced the Air King, which was that affordable watch. And then it came out with this new Air King that you're talking about that was based on the dials of
the Bloodhound. Okay. And so the new Air King is the same case and movement as your Milgauss given.
That's right, the same case. Yeah.
So the only difference with the movement, it doesn't have the anti-magnetic cage around the movement.
That's right.
But recently, that's what I want to talk about with you guys.
You've seen it. It's a controversial watch.
Is all the 5s.
It's a lot of 5s.
Yeah, is wherever they could put a 5, they put 1.
There's a lot of 5s.
So there's the 5, 25, 35, 50, 55.
There's a lot of weird...
Oh, I see what you mean.
And a lot of people... Exactly. A lot of people jump at it and they say, there's no symmetry.
But you know what? It's just like that penis at 12 o'clock on the Speedmaster.
Yeah.
It just...
see it.
If you didn't tell me this, I wouldn't know. It doesn't stand out. I wouldn't say that it stands out to me, to be honest.
You know what? You're right. I didn't notice it till someone told me.
Yeah. So that dial is literally based on the cluster from the Bloodhound program. But the thing is, the Bloodhound program ran out of funds since it was a university-based program.
Do you know when?
I think it was early 2019.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, and during last year, so we're in 2020 right now, businessmen in the UK bought back the program. So it changed from the Bloodhound NLC to the Bloodhound LSR for a land speed record. But when that happened, when there was a switch from a university program to a private program, Rolex pulled out. So they remove their gauges from the car. And now in the car, though, where there used to be the Rolex gauges, it's blanks.
So they're Rolex instruments, really?
Yeah, they're gone. No more, right? So
how baller are you if you're driving something and your fucking dial says Rolex? That's fucking baller, isn't it?
Well, JLC used to put gauges in Ferraris.
Oh god, that's so cool.
It is very
Fuck,
cool.
that's really cool.
ILWC, they do gauges for Benz.
That is very cool. I agree.
That is fucking amazing. That is fucking cool.
When you buy your Ferrari again, your next Ferrari,
They don't do
make
it
sure
anymore.
it has the GLC.
What is this? What is this garbage? Where's my GLC fucking?
But I'm sure they used to do it in the past, not now.
That's
Now everything is about cost saving.
Bentley has a $100,000 option tourbillon for the Bentayga.
How do you fucking wind that?
You don't?
Don't. You just throw the car away and you buy a new one.
I don't. I have to put gas in this car. What am I,
You
a
have to-
farmer?
You have to have oil money to buy a car like this.
Exactly. Oil.
You
Yeah,
don't just
and-
buy a new
and they-
car.
They
You
only
throw it out. It's disposable, like a disposable camera for us.
You don't even throw it out. You have to call
Or
someone.
you throw it out. You
Yeah.
have
You
a
just-
dumpster truck
you
that just picks it up and just throws
You
it
just
out.
pull over, leave it. Someone puts
Drive it into a lake and just leave.
Yeah, so to go back to the Bentley Bentayga, it's Breitling is doing the tourbillon.
Breitling is doing
And
a
they're all-
tourbillon in the Bentley Bottega
It's
dash.
just-
Look at that
It's
thing.
just excessive.
It's 100,000 pounds.
No, but I'm serious. How?
Do you think people that buy this car actually know what kind of watch is in that car?
It's an option. They only do 10 a year.
Oh, it's an option.
But I still don't understand. And I'm gonna be honest. It's a very legitimate. How do you wind that thing?
Is it automatic?
Yeah, but so it's the movement of the car.
Yeah, I guess.
So okay, but then if you don't drive it for, I don't know what the power reserve is, but it's got to die at one point, and then you got to wind it by driving.
You have to understand, when you have that kind of money, you don't
by
give a shit.
driving over potholes. So
No,
it
I
shakes.
understand. I understand that clearly. I understand that people don't give a shit, but you're putting a tourbillon in a fucking car dash.
That's
It's got to make
just excessive.
it's excessive.
It's excessive. It's excessive. I
A
just don't
clever electric winder.
Clever electric winder. So there's
think- As long as you said
Car
clever.
battery then.
yeah,
That's your...
Yeah, that's the clever electric winder. That's
Yeah.
a car battery.
So, to go back to the Hair King.
yeah,
Hair King.
Hair King. All the H.
it's very French.
Yeah.
I live in my house.
House.
In my house. Don't be a hass.
Has like the
yeah,
F1
so
team.
Rolex pulled out from the program, so they don't really have a reason to do that dial anymore.
Always
So
pull out, guys.
always pull out.
Yeah, Rolex pulled out too.
So now I want to go back to our Rolex authorized dealer to remove my sub waiting list and put me back on the Hair King.
Do it.
Because I just feel that they're gonna stop to do that dials anytime now.
Yes.
Right? 2021 maybe.
As we always say, do it.
There's
Yes.
gonna be in a few years when they stop making it. Shit, you guys remember that?
It's same thing with the Milgauss.
Yes, but that thing's
Speaking of other watches,
no. They're gonna keep making the Milgauss,
when I was researching
Not the
Zin,
green new.
not the blue.
the pricings are going to go up. Well, I was looking at watch buys,
Yeah.
and they're saying that there's an official price change that's coming from Zin in August, at the end of August.
Oh yeah.
Soon.
Increase, yeah.
We're,
Yeah. So if
do
you
you
want to
know
buy it
how
at
much?
the current price, I don't know how much, but I don't know, 10%, 15%.
So Dima,
What's the guess?
do it. Go buy one right now.
You know the thing is,
I
though,
also want a Seiko. I also want a Grand Seiko.
but here's the other thing. You know, if ever you travel to Europe, and you go on Chrono and you get slightly used, you get good deals on those watches. They're not necessarily worth the new purchase. They hold their value. They diminish very quickly at the start, but then they kind of hold their value.
Right.
Yeah, but Dima doesn't want the wrist-grime of other people.
Not really. I don't mind. Wrist grime.
Using words, use word spirit last time. The spirit of something.
Yeah,
I know he's talking
I'm
about
also
somebody-
an
grime.
American spirit.
Somebody
You
who has
don't
a,
even speak English. He's saying ass.
Some-
Welcome to my ass.
somebody who has a dishwatch says
Dishwatch?
wrist grime.
You prefer wrist cheese?
No, no one.
Just stop it. Stop ruining
Just
watches
stop
for me.
ruining everything.
So yeah, what guys? You think is it? I should
Get
go
the
for the
blood
Air
out.
King right now
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
because it might
It's
go up.
it's
Yeah,
it's
let me
more
wear
it's
it.
more unique.
let me wear it when you're
A sub is a sub. As much as everybody loves a sub,
and they'll keep making them.
they will keep making. They will never change. But
Forever.
Air King is just.
I'll
There's
lend you
something
the Air
about it.
King if you lend me your Milgauss.
Yes,
I'll give you my G-Shock if you give me. Your
I
Air King.
didn't talk to you, Dima.
Oh.
Dimitri, stop talking.
I'll buy you another G-Shock and give you two G-Shocks. It's a good deal.
No.
2 watches, 2
Oh.
dishwatches,
It's a good deal. Take it.
a dishwatch and a shower watch.
Oh my god.
Okay, guys. So what are we talking about today?
I think let's get to the right topic. So we're talking now. It's going to be a mouthful, guys. Get ready. Lock yourselves in for the BBC, the big black clock. It's a mouthful. We're going to go into, each one's going to go on their little rant here, tell us about a brand they love, they like, they admire, they dream of. Tell us why they got into it, and tell us the story, everything. And then that's going to be it. So let's get into this. Do we start this thing now, guys? Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Start this thing.
Cheers,
Salud.
Santé.
Roast.
L'chaim.
So I feel like Dima talked the less earlier. So do you want to start with your
Sure.
Get us
Your
going,
brand?
man.
Sure.
Get us
What
going.
brand you're crushing right now, or at least that you want to talk about?
It's not the brand that I'm crushing on right now. I've been always crushing on them before. It's
love.
It's love at first sight. And I've always thought of them as a brand that I would buy a watch of at some point. And I was always fascinated by their history. I didn't know as much, and this was an exercise in me kind of forcing myself to learn a little bit. But it's a slippery slope, because once you start learning about it, you kind of like go into this never-ending search on Wikipedia where you just keep clicking and clicking and clicking, and you find that at some point that you're just looking at something completely different.
All right.
Anyways, so the brand that I'm going to be talking about is Jaeger-LeCoultre.
Yeah.
I don't think that brand needs any introduction.
Yeah.
It's, to me, one of the most amazing brands ever, right? It's not in the big three, and it surprises me a little bit, I think. The big three are Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, and Patek Philippe, right? But it's just because it's officially a bit of a different price segment. I think that, to me, is the main reason why.
I think it has to do as well with age. It has to do with pricing, of course.
The funny thing you say about age, it's interesting of how old Jaeger-LeCoultre really is.
Yes. But I also think it's to do with pricing as well.
Yeah.
Because Lang & Son is knocking at that door where people say, you know what?
They're just much younger.
Yeah. Because, look, let's just take, for example, what you just said. Like, you take those big three. You have, like, the Nautilus, the Royal Oak, and you have the Overseas. And then what came out last year, Lang & Son's like, we're going to come out with our steel sports watch, the Odysseus. And then you get some other ones that are there, the Zapek that came out now, the Chopard Alpine.
Right. So, for me, this was an exercise in learning a little bit about the brand history. And I am kind of that person that likes history about watches more than anything else. I enjoy reading about where the watch came from, what inspired, let's say, different things. And I'll just talk a little bit about the origin of the brand. Mm-hmm. Originally, before it became a brand, officially it became a brand in 1833 when two guys, it's Antoine LeCoultre and I can't remember the first name of
Edgar Jaeger.
Is it Edgar Jaeger?
No, for me, it's only Jaeger. That's it.
Jaeger. Okay, so it's Antoine LeCoultre and Jaeger.
Yes.
They formed the brand officially in 1833. But the story goes way before that. It started. It goes back to LeCoultre. It's Pierre LeCoultre, who came from France. He was escaping religious repercussions.
What?
Religious repercussions. He was escaping, and he came there. It was in the 1500s.
Came where?
He went to Switzerland, to the place which is Vallée du Joux, which is basically one of the most famous watchmaking areas in Switzerland. And he started the village called Le Sentier.
The whole village.
Yeah, he's the one who built the church, and that church is basically in the middle of that village. That village
is fucking cool.
That is very cool. And that was in the 1500s.
The guy was escaping from religious repercussion and
persecutions.
Same thing. And build.
I think I said repercussions, but persecutions. Persecutions.
And
repercussions of what?
Well, he was escaping the Jesus Christ. The
exactly.
What are the
Jesus Christ.
What is the words? I'm just
excommunication.
Too much
because
alcohol?
It was during the 1400s, so it was the Renaissance period.
No, but what is that? The Crusades.
The Crusades.
Well, it was after. It was after. 1500s was after. So he basically escaped to Switzerland, to the Vallée du Joux. He was one of the first people to settle there. He started a village. He built a church, and you can look it up. The church is still there. So that little village, it's kind of like a village that forms a community of maybe two other villages right around it. But Jaeger-LeCoultre started the village, and today all of the three big brands are there, plus
Yeah.
plus Breguet and Blancpain. All of those
Breguet,
brands
see?
are today in Vallée de Joux.
They say the first watch was Breguet.
Correct.
So
But it wasn't 1500s.
yeah.
So to me that is fascinating, right?
Yeah, you put the stepping stone for
Very
everyone to
fascinating.
install.
The guy that started the brand, the watch brand, was his ancestor. He started because the Jaeger-LeCoultre came to that area in 1500s, and the brand started in 1833, right? Antoine Lecoultre was born in like early 1800s. So I mean, there was a good 250 years before. But at the end of the day, he started the business in the place that was started by his ancestor.
It's nuts.
That's
It
very
is pretty cool. It is pretty cool. And he was a very talented, gifted watchmaker. He's won a bunch of awards.
Mm-hmm.
He's invented this device that's called the millionometer, which allows you to measure microns.
Right.
So it allows you to measure, to build, let's say, parts for the watches specifically. I mean, in this case, that are very, very small and precise.
So
Allows them to build small mechanisms.
So what's so cool is that a lot of these old watchmakers at the heart were inventors, engineers. They were innovators, right? They weren't just watchmakers. Back then, it was just like this whole ensemble of it, right?
He didn't patent this, so he doesn't really get money, royalty. The other thing that he invented that I didn't know before, but it's very cool and everybody is using today, he invented the function, the two-stop crown, where you pull it to change the date and then you pull it again to change the time.
Oh, get out the two position.
That's the GLC.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I
It's
found that this
very
is very
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Again, didn't patent this either, so everybody started using it and using it today.
Do you know why? Did you check?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like again, the information is limited. I didn't really see, but I'm imagining that these guys are inventors.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily businessmen.
Yeah. What sucks is that back then there's also a lack of documentation.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
Where did patents start too, right? What
Yeah.
year?
Well, they
and
did
other
have
things,
that in the
right?
1800s for sure. It's just that
Yeah,
didn't
but
do it.
still, even today,
Thomas Edison did.
yeah,
Then wars break out and then they start bonfires and whatever the fuck you had in a patent office goes up in flames and boom, it's done.
and there's some patent too that offices are not respected in other countries, right? That's
Right,
another
right,
hard
right.
thing to do, right?
What fascinates me a lot about this watch brand is that they have always been the inventors. They've pretty much always, with some exceptions, they've always manufactured the calibers in-house. I wasn't able to fact check that, but they have produced over 1,200 different calibers over their lifetime. That's a lot of calibers. They are, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. And I find that these guys are basically at the frontier of progress when it comes to watchmaking, right? They've always come
Especially
with
in the
new stuff.
Innovators. Right?
Especially the movements.
Right. They've obviously come up with a few interesting watches that are very famous, and like the reversos, like a Memovox. I'm not gonna go into details right now. There's a lot you can talk about those specific models, but they were also very famous for supplying big brands with their own calibers.
Yeah, for many, many decades, right?
Many decades. At the beginning of the 20th century, they were making calibers for Patek and also Cartier
It's funny, the brand
for
I'm going
like
to talk
30 years.
the brand I'm going to talk about later had movements from Jaeger.
The other thing that I found that was very cool, I find, is that I'm sure you all know about Lemania.
Yeah.
Right? Lemania is also a brand that existed, for a while, but it's been over 100 years they don't exist.
Yeah.
They were purchased by Omega at some point, I think, and Omega used their movement to make the famous 321 movement, I think, that's used in the Speedmaster.
Yeah.
So the person who started, I don't have the name, but the person who started Lemania worked at GLC at some point. He went for the GLC school to start Lemania.
Many brands have that.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
They also produced the Patek and Cartier. They produced Patek mechanisms, I think, later in the 20th century, and Cartier as recently as like early 2000s, I think, in some cases. I'm not sure about other brands, but this is significant enough.
I read an article that said that hurt Jaeger-LeCoultre was because they produced such movements for all these big brands and they didn't have the brand recognition that a lot of other brands had. A lot of people go, well, Why would I buy a Jaeger-LeCoultre if I could just buy the more popular brand that has a Jaeger-LeCoultre movement in it, right? It was something interesting I was reading about that.
What else can I mention about this watch? They've always been kind of tasked with making to be first, to go along with progress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So early, they're famous for coming up with very, very thin mechanisms, and their ultra thin models, the master control stuff,
right.
They all started at the early 20th century when they were basically trying to make the smallest possible mechanism,
Right.
which is what they did. They actually have, I think, to this day, they have a record. They have a mechanism called Caliber 101 by GLC. Fun fact about it is that it weighs less than 1 gram.
So fun.
But it is fantastic how you fit such a small mechanism in such a small casing, and it weighs nothing. I don't understand it.
I can't even conceive that. What's a gram? Like, if you think about it.
Well,
I'm thinking of like,
what do you measure? What is the unit of measurement?
Grades of rice. Rice grades. Yogurt. What do you want to say? Cocaine. Exactly. Quarter gram. So 4 small baggies of would make
We'll
up.
need to beep that out.
Yeah.
We don't know what drugs are.
And
A gram.
I'll try to.
Oh, that's super light.
It's a grain of rice. No? Less than that? Couple of grain of rice.
So they made a few watches with that mechanism, and Queen Elizabeth she wore that.
The movement is like a tenth of the watch.
Yeah.
She wore that watch and that caliber at her coronation in 1953, and this is what it looks like. I'm just showing. It's tiny.
Yeah. It's a grain of rice movement, pretty much.
But their movements are fucking bulletproof.
So
perfect.
if we shot at it with a gun, we're gonna survive.
Probably not.
Oh God, Karl,
Depends
you're so
on-
off today. What is wrong with you?
Depends what kind of gun.
It's just like
Like a toy gun?
Spirit. And what was the other word he used earlier? I don't know.
Grime.
Watches,
Grime.
cheese,
And I was like,
watch
"Ugh."
cheese.
Oh,
Wrist
God.
cheese or
Wrist
wrist grime.
cheese. Oh God, Karl.
As you go,
So if you ever
wrist
wonder-
cheese.
If you ever wonder if you should get a GLC, just do it.
Just do it.
It's just that what I mean. It's just that's all I was able to find. But that watch company has so much history, and it's so interesting. And once you start reading into origins of watchmaking in Switzerland, everything is interconnected. There's probably a good reason why at some point all the big brands they kind of moved to be next to each other. There's probably a good reason for that.
Right.
And it's
Maybe
very
to
cool.
feed off each other's.
I'm sure.
The pool of engineers.
I'm sure they all use each other's mechanisms. Yeah, and it's just probably easier for transportation.
So maybe if the brand didn't get enough love when they were like great, like other brands using the movements, you could probably find some great JLCs on the vintage market.
Maybe. I'm just afraid that they're too popular to be affordable.
We're talking like GLC is a not really known brand or anything, but they're still huge, right?
No, absolutely, they're huge.
They're still, I would still say, they're bubbling under. They're not everywhere. They're not Omega. They're not Rolex. They're not Breitling. They're not Tag Heuer. They're not that.
They're in that interesting gray area. They're also not part of the big three, right? Because they're not as pricey.
If I can make a comparison with like car stuff, Lotus,
I think it would be like that.
right? When you like watches, you know who GLC is.
Yeah.
You see one, you go, "Wow, that's a nice watch."
So you want to compare it to a car specific brand or a specific car?
like Lotus. It's really rare you see ones. It's not a big market for those cars, but when you see one, you go, "That's a nice car," and I understand what it is, right?
But there are far fewer in the car, I would say,
Industry?
world. Just even the world that has that kind of cachet, that kind of bubbles under without being a supercar.
Lotus are
Would you
not
say
supercars.
Lotus?
Give me anything other than a Lotus that
What if I
makes
said-
bubbles under.
What if I said something like a BMW M5?
We know that everyone knows BMW.
No,
It's like the Omega.
It's just that car. It's a lot of car.
But that's a lot of car. That's a specific Omega to me. Lotus is a brand.
Yeah, but Lotus are not supercars. That's the thing you have to understand.
But that's
They're
what
sports cars.
But that's what I just said.
like you can get a Lotus for 50 grand.
But that's what I'm saying. But like when you take Jaeger-LeCoultre and you're comparing them to Lotus, it's a very good comparison. But are there any other cars that have this like cachet that's bubbling under without being very expensive, that is more enthusiast, moins connu?
There's only one, but you really need to be a huge enthusiast. It's Morgan.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
Very, very, very.
Because it's the same shop since 1904 in England, right? They still use wood in the confection of that car.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's less than Lotus.
Richard Hammond just bought himself one, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Is
it still being built?
Yeah. Yeah. So
we got to do some car episodes.
So
big black cars.
Just to finish off on the JLC topic there.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot more to uncover. The history of that watch brand is very interesting.
There's hours of information for that.
You know what? I was looking for different websites and Wikipedia as well. It's a bottomless pit. So once you start looking into one thing, you click on something else. You click and
and then
you
you're
end up
World War
looking
II.
for a completely different brand.
Then you're Nazis.
Oh no, way before World War II. Way before. Centuries before World War II.
So I have two questions for you. One, why this brand? What attracted you the most to it? And two, which one would you buy today?
To buy today, it's very easy. I absolutely love the Master Control watches.
Yes. Many times we've seen it together.
I love it so much. I've tried it on many times. I know exactly how it looks on my wrist.
Did you get the moon face?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
100%. 100%.
Wow.
I'll get the moon face.
Oh yeah. That's a huge step.
Well,
That's very useless, but
it's great. But it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Hey, Dima, you know what?
I also really love the sector dial ones.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Well, just once.
Do it.
Yeah.
just once, man. You can't say it again now.
And the reason why I'm crushing on this brand, I don't know why. I think it's just I love history. I love the reversal, and maybe because it was polarizing for me. Maybe because that watch at first I just didn't understand it at all. I didn't like it, and it went completely 180. It went from me not liking it at all to me loving it and like considering of buying it at some point.
My brother got into it because of that, the brand history, and he bought himself a Memo Vox.
Right. Memo Vox, what a fantastic watch as well.
Oh yeah, mechanical alarm,
and it's arguably, obviously there are disputes there, considered to be the first alarm watch.
Yeah.
Again, crazy.
Side note: when your brother's back in town, we'll have to have it on this podcast.
Yeah. He has a pretty great watch collection. He is a little bit of a man. His tastes are very expensive. Like right, like, oh, I really love this Laurent Ferrier. Blah blah. I'm like, yeah, that's a fucking tourbillon. That's such a fuck you tourbillon. It's on the back of the watch so you don't even see the tourbillon. It's so fuck you. They go, yeah. Then you turn it over. You go, look at this tourbillon.
So it's like a Bentley with a tourbillon in there.
Exactly, but you don't have to show it.
Yeah.
You go, let me.
It's there.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's good taste.
And the other reason I think is because when I was really crushing on chronographs, and right before I bought my Speedmaster, there is a GLC that looks very similar, the Polaris chronograph.
Oh yeah.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, this is the Speedmaster 2.0.
It's twice the price of yours.
It is, but it's quite a bit more watch also.
But it's a lot more watch. It's a connoisseur's watch, enthusiast watch.
It is so thin. It is so thin and has everything a Speedmaster has, but also automatic.
But that, you were talking about that sector dial master control that they don't make anymore. They also had a chronograph in that line. They had the Geophysique, not the Geophysique. They had the Geophysique.
Geophysique also is a very
nice watch. They had the Geophysique.
They have a lot of really nice
the
watches.
sector dial regular three-hander, and they had a chronograph, and that chronograph was fucking awesome.
And they're pushing the limits all the time. This is what I also like about those watches. They keep innovating and adding new amazing complications. They just made a reverso that's two-phase reverso tourbillon.
I have a lot.
Why? Because fuck you, I can't.
Because I can.
I also think what you said is a good point. I think GLC doesn't release duds, and I have not seen a watch that flopped for them. So every once in a while, every brand and has one they go, remember that Tudor P01 came out?
I love that watch.
I kind of like it, but it's polarizing.
I love
it
that
is
one.
really
Super
polarizing.
People are like, what the hell are you
I have a
guys
friend
doing?
of mine who absolutely hates it.
Oh, no,
I like it.
I want
like
it.
I like it because I was like, fuck, they could have just come out with another Black Bay. They came out with the
Yeah,
PO1, right?
I feel they were before the.
You see how we all
everyone-
reacted, eh? I was
Yeah.
like, I fucking love it. I fucking hate it.
I love that watch. I feel they were a bit before everyone starting really to do the integrated bracelet.
Yeah.
Right, just before, like a couple months.
Tudor you're talking about, or the
PO1.
the PO1? It has a lot of personality to that watch, man. A lot of people were like, yeah, there's the chronograph. He's showing us right
I am
now,
looking at
Dimitri,
the GLC
the
chronograph, the sector dial.
GLC, and that is the master control.
It is.
It's
How
It
much
is.
did I go for?
10,
It is.
10 to 12,000 Canadian.
It is so
You-
beautiful.
No, new.
New.
Yeah, it was 5,700 US for the 3-time. The geolocation, which was the world, the GMT one, that was more expensive. But this was the most expensive. I think this was 10 grand US. So you look about 10, 12, 13.
Oh, there's
12, 13
so
grand.
many watches between 10 and 13.
It's a lot of watch. Yeah, but let's be honest here. If you could get an MSRP, the GMT Master 2 is 12. It's a great looking watch. It's
Yeah,
like
but you
your
have to
Master-
wait 5 years to get your fucking.
No, you don't
Rolex.
even wait. There's no list anymore.
This is exactly. It's infinite waiting time.
I think it's going to be on my list as well.
Oh yes,
It's
this watch.
just my list is just ever
Dima,
changing.
Dima, do it.
Yeah.
It's a
Just a look at me.
but it's a beautiful line, and it was affordable. That was look the watch you're showing us, which is the Master Control, not the Geophysic, but he was showing us the regular 3-hander. That watch, Dimitri, was 5,700 brand new when it came out. That's a really good price. That's 7,000 Canadian dollars. Perfection.
It is perfection. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is why I love GLC.
So which one? The Master Control.
If I would get, honestly, if I could get a GLC, I would try to find the sector dial GLC Master Control.
and it was the brand and the history that got that reached out to you.
Yeah. But I do love the new Master Control ultra thin moon phase. Well, even the regular one doesn't have to be moon. It's just moon phase is so nice.
You know what? It's
Unnecessary,
not
but
even
nice.
because he works in an office, because it's such a good watch.
But I have a friend of mine who owns it. He has a sector dial, and he wears it everywhere.
The GLC.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I need some new friends.
And
Who? He goes, my friend owns this. I'm like, I need some new friends.
I've seen him wear it everywhere on different
that's
occasions,
great.
casual dress,
That's
and
great.
it just works.
But no
It
one
just
can,
looks good.
no
And
one
nobody
can
knows.
tell, eh?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows what it is. Nobody knows. But it's just so elegant, and I think that's a good way to describe it. It's so elegant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyhow, enough me blubbering.
Yeah.
Let's switch
Nice
to
brand. I'll go
Carlos?
next.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I choose the last watch I bought and why I bought it, and go over that brand because
This is going to be terrible.
it's I'm the worst. Everyone knows that. I don't speak English.
which
really.
then is it?
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Do
so
we have
I
to
bought
beep
a
it out or no?
I bought a movement watch.
Oh, God.
Or Vinceros, right?
Oh, God.
Last watch I bought was a CWC G10, so a military watch. So it's CWC stands for Cabot Watch Company, and I like that they start a company in 1972, so it's quite young for a watch company, and it was purely to make. They only wanted to make a watch, a military watch, so they started the company and they said, we're going to make military watch for the military. That's it. That's our objective. And they went with it and they got it, right? So in 80, so it took them 8 years and they made the first quartz watch to be supplied to the HM forces. So the UK, pretty much. And it was the G10. It's a quartz. The nickname of them in the military was the Fat Boy. And that's what I bought. The one I bought was a 2006. And right now I'm handing it to Dima. It's really a simple field watch, and it's solid bars on it. I thought it was spring
Disposable.
bars, but disposable watch, right? They're really looking into it. It's a watch. You break it, you throw it away, you get a new one.
But you were saying about the spring bars. They have spring bars.
No, they don't.
They're solid.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah.
I thought one of them is crooked. Like I just
you thought it wasn't.
yeah,
I told
my
you,
mistake. My
Yeah.
mistake, right?
This watch makes me think of the khaki feel that you were talking about
Yes.
last time.
But better.
it is cool. It is so cool.
Better.
You know what I
Quartz,
find
right?
super
Feels
cool?
mechanical. That's a big difference.
I don't care.
I just
This is the ultimate form.
it is
They win the
just
contract
so
for it.
cool.
That's the thing, right? 1980.
I'm
so it took
starting
them
to
8
crush
years.
on CWC as well because it's just so cool.
Check out their
And again,
divers, dude.
I'm all about the history of watches, right? And if you think of this, I love that you have a stamp. The model
Yeah,
issue.
the
It's just-
VIN
it's-
and
it's
the
just-
specifications.
It's just
stamp
so
and the-
utilitarian.
Sterile dial.
I love how you open the back with a coin. Anything that fits, you can open it. To
Yeah.
change
Have you
the
seen their
battery. It's
diver?
just-
Show them the diver.
I'll come to the diver in a second.
Yeah.
I'll just give the watch to here. So in 1980 they got the contract with the G10, the Fat Boy, the one I bought, and the same year they won the contract to replace the Rolex Millsap for the UK military, and that's something, right? Everyone say, "Oh, the sub, it's the watch and everything." So they didn't fuck around for the name. It called it the Royal Navy Diver. Literally, what the watch is doing, right? And I have a picture here. I'm gonna show them to the guys, to Dimitri and Kevin. So that's the 1980 diver.
That's a 1980 CWC diver.
This is a Seamaster.
Oh no! This is like
Well, it replaced the
They're
Rolex
yeah.
built
sub.
to spec,
the
right?
Seamaster 300 is what he's
Exactly.
talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah,
They're built to spec. I'm sure they follow the same.
Yeah, that's
that
some
watch
rules,
is
right?
That watch is 2,000 pounds.
By the way, I was
Yeah,
very close to picking Omega
yeah.
because I just love. And again, this is cool.
we'll have more episodes.
It's a very short segue, but I was crushing on Omega because for every style of a watch, I have a watch from them that I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Back to you, Karl.
Can't go wrong. Man.
So CWC, they got the Royal Navy Diver in 1980, right, to replace the Rolex,
Yeah.
and they only make it for 2 years.
Right.
So there's only 600 units in the world, and the big difference to know if you don't have like a copy or anything else, right? It's the logo. So before 1982,
Right.
just CWC, and after 1982, there's a circle around it,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
So those watches, I've seen some of them going for like between 5 and 10K Canadian,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
right? The original ones, but they're really hard to come by
Yeah.
because it's military. So it's,
So what are they? 41 millimeter with a crown guard.
I guess so. I didn't
Yeah.
take the spec up, but it's nuts, right?
Sword hands with that. And now I think I was looking on their website. They have 3 types of loom.
Yep.
They have the vintage loom, the light vintage loom, and they have the C3 Luminova.
Yeah, and mine is tritium, right?
Yours is a tritium dial,
Yeah,
but it's so old that it ran
06,
out.
So it's 14 years old, right?
12 to 14, yeah.
Yeah,
It
and it's
ran
10
out.
to 12.
So,
The
yeah.
tritium is gonna take, right? So you don't need to go have any sunlight. It's always gonna light up,
That's right.
but it's gonna wear out. But those watches are not meant to
The-
last that long
That's
anyway.
right.
So who gives a shit when you get there, right? Another thing that I really like about CWC is any watch they do, it's for a military specification.
Yeah.
They sell watch for civilians,
Yeah.
but it's based from something that it used to sold or still selling to any army anywhere.
There was a rumor, not a rumor, sorry. I was reading an interesting article. They were just saying that in the Her Majesty's or the Military of Defense had a lot of contracts out there. And then at one point they're like, we're going to cut this down. And I think that the brands now are like Bremont. I think like they're one of the only ones
Yeah.
that have contracts with the Ministry of Defense. But it's interesting you say that, yeah. But there is a sexiness, an appeal
Well,
to
there's a purpose. It's built for something, right?
Yeah, and it makes you feel like you're part of it.
It's the
Maybe
same.
owning a piece of it.
It's the same reason why people buy, or at least a lot of people buy, Land Rover Defenders and Mercedes-Benz G-Wagons. Oh, I love that. I think Dimitri liked G-Wagons. They
it.
Right?
I also love Defenders.
I could sell this.
Yeah,
It's just
but
that they're
they're-
so terrible.
They're military trucks.
Reliability-wise.
They're military trucks. They build for a reason, and it's to serve a purpose within the military, right?
Can I ask you a question though, based on trucks, so
Yes.
based on cars? If you wanted something that's totally utilitarian, purposeful, wouldn't you be, equally as authentic as buying a Jeep?
So the Jeep is the military vehicle for the US.
Right.
The Defender is military vehicle for the UK, and the G-Wagon was for Europe.
And the US fucked up.
If you really want to get, but I mean,
We got the Land Rover, and then we got Jeep.
I would say if you want something utilitarian, you want to get something like a CWC that you don't care about, right? So get like
that's
the
why I
base
bought
version
this
of a F-150. That's like the most utilitarian you can get.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
A Jeep is overpriced because it has a huge cult following.
Yeah.
CWC, that diver's 2,000 pounds.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
Yeah, that divert, but right, it's
2,000 pounds.
but yeah, and what I really like
a lot of
recently
cheddar.
with CWC, right? They really switched their marketing at least towards the civilians, right? The consumers like you and me. And right now, if you have your CWC and you restore it and stuff like that, they take that time and they do an article about it either on their website or on their social media. So you go on CWC Instagram, and it's like 60% of them is civilian-owned watches that have been restored or have stories behind them and stuff like that. So they really switched their marketing that way. But I understand.
Do you know
right?
who runs it? Do you know any of those details? Or what the
No.
ownership is?
But they what they do on their website, what they say is many other watches survive today having seen military service. It's a true statement on their durability. So CWC is a good manufacturer of watches.
I'm pretty sure any watch that was designed for war will outlast me.
Yes. Well,
Let's just say
I'm pretty
any
sure-
watch.
yeah, any watch gonna outlast you, right? Like you're made of flesh skin. Like wow.
What we all are. What are you talking about? Like seriously?
No.
Talk for you.
Who are
Carl
you
is saying you are made of flesh and skin. What are you, Karl?
talking?
T1000
Marshmallow.
over there.
Marshmallow. Oh, you went with steel. I went with marshmallow. I went with Uzi.
Are you sent to kill John Connor?
Not yet.
Not yet.
But yeah, like, that's it. There's more to say about CWC, but that's really why I like that watch company, at least lately, what I has been into it.
So they have a lot of field watches, divers.
It's
they even
only
have
field
a
and-
beautiful chrono.
Yeah.
I saw that beautiful. They have
Beautiful watches, I agree.
their watch. They have a beautiful chronograph. I had it on my list here.
I have a
They-
question for you also after.
They have a
Karl.
CWC
To
Royal Navy Fleet Air Armed Pilots chronograph, which is it's a lot of money, but it's a great chronograph. Proper mil spec.
It's my opinion, but I think you don't lose anything with CWC.
If you want a proper mil spec watch,
It's everything you want for that watch to be.
and I think there's something a little romantic. I think, or a little bit.
We love romance here.
Well, there's something. You know what? I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. I think
You're wrong.
But tell me if I say it. Like, if you're like, I got something that's like made and was commissioned by Her Royal Navy, Her Majesty's King, blah blah blah, Ministry of Defense, and you have this like beautiful diver that's made for the mil spec, versus like, yeah, we commissioned Casio. There's something I think a little bit historical, old. I don't know about
Yeah,
the Royal
Yeah.
Military.
100%. I agree.
My watch was in service in 06, right? So it's either it just went through training and wasn't not useful anymore, or someone died with it, and now I have it. Right? So it's so
Or
so
somebody
romantic.
said that they lost it and sold it after it.
Yeah, no, it was an auction watch. The buyer I got it from
Okay.
is a guy who's collecting CWC in Edinburgh, and he's buying them from auctions
Nice.
in the UK. So
Very cool. Why would so there's another company, right? There's a Canadian company, Marathon.
Yeah.
Why did you lean towards CWC versus Marathon? Just curious question.
I don't know. I just like the overall the logo. I find it really simple and easy to read, right?
Right.
And I don't know, man. I was just looking. I was on Chrono24, just browsing some watches like I always do, and I just saw that seller with all those CWC. And funny enough, they changed in pricing depending on which war they went into.
So Marathon has three places, right? It has Canadian government,
US,
US, and Israel.
which makes sense, which is US. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, was I
Yeah,
not supposed
so,
to say that?
Was
So
We'll beep that out.
This is not
we'll beep that
political,
out.
right?
We'll beep that out. But yeah, I find them too late for daily wear. I have a Marathon, but I have the plastic
I
navigator.
I agree with you 100%, and I was kind of waiting for Karl to say the same. CWC is very refined, I find, and very elegant. I
Simple.
use that word again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say simple.
Elegant.
They're not simple. They're maximum utility with a very minimal look. It's not, to me, simple.
That's what I was saying.
Simple to me
romantic.
is just basic.
We're gonna beep that out. We're gonna beep that out.
Do you care?
I don't.
We're joking.
I definitely
no,
don't.
we're joking.
I don't think so. I don't need to be sponsored.
We're sponsoring
Wait
ourselves.
till you beep.
They're making enough
This
money.
podcast is brought to you by us.
Exactly.
From now on, we will just be beeping out everything I say.
It's just a log.
It's just a lot of beeping, mostly beeping.
Anyway, that's why I love that brand.
And
That's why I
and
love
on
that
that note, and on that note, but yeah, Marathon, I agree with 100%. I like them, but I've seen them in person. I think that they're way too utilitarian.
Yeah.
The other thing that reminds me of that also is Damasco.
Oh yeah.
A beautiful company, amazing watches, very utilitarian.
Hardened submarine steel with like submarine.
It's
steel
just
on
like, unless I'm a deep sea diver, I don't need to wear a
it. At
Damasco.
war.
At war with other deep sea divers.
At war with other DC.
It was a deep sea dive
with
battle.
hammerhead sharks everywhere.
So yeah,
Well done. So yeah, going. I hope that your watch brand is not a military watch.
It is British though. It is not.
Okay, so thank you for
it's
this podcast.
British.
It's British.
Okay,
The T
so
is silent. It's
the brand
British.
I went
British.
with. I listened to a few interviews, podcasts with about this brand with the actual owner, and I said in a few podcasts back, I really believe in the connection that a watch brand tries to make with me, and this brand is one that I'm really, really into.
So you like when watch brand touch you?
I love when they touch me.
Cool. We'll cut out everything before that last sentence.
It's conceptual.
Is
so
it?
the brand I'm really into these days is a brand called Fears. And it's a brand,
How do you spell that?
Fear, like Fear, like
Yes.
when Karl undresses himself,
Like Fear Factor?
like Fear Factor.
Like when Karl looks in the mirror at the look on his face?
That's exactly it, Fear Factor. He's just shaking his head.
God damn it!
God damn it. So the brand is called Fear, Fears watches. It came out in 1846 by someone named Edward Fear, a gentleman from Bristol. It's a company that's family run. It's 174 years old.
Bristol?
Yeah, Bristol, United Kingdom. It's still there today. It's a brand that started like yours when you're talking about GLC a very long time ago, back in the Victorian days. So when the brand actually came out, Queen Victoria was in her 20s, and she was 9 years.
And she's quite old.
She's quite old. It's been only 9 years she was on the throne. And about the time that Fierce came out, time had just been standardized for about a year. And the UK had a different time zone from city to city. So the clock in the center square in Bristol had 2 minutes hands. They were 10 minutes apart. One that was Bristol time and one that was London time.
Oh, interesting.
That's really, really cool. So I think everyone knows the brand Smiths, right? From the United Kingdom.
No, but please tell us. I know the music band.
No, but you've heard of Smiths, the watch brand, for sure.
No, I have not.
Okay, so Smiths was
But
one of the
please.
brands that actually made it to the top of Everest. They made the watch.
Oh,
that made
yes.
the top of Everest.
Sorry, yes,
Smiths,
of
yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So
Just a brain spasm.
Smiths, when it came out, so just to give you an idea, Fears came out 5 years before Smiths did in the United Kingdom and lasted about 5 years later than Smiths. So they were the largest watch manufacturer in the west of England. And they were actually international to about 95 countries. They were making hundreds of thousands of watches at the time. So one of the differences that you could find in these Fears watches is that the Fears watches that were made in England said the Fears watches that were made outside of England that were international said Fears Bristol, England on the dial, while the Fears watches that were made in England just said Fears on them. And what's interesting is that they don't have a very large offering. Back then, the type of watches that they used to make were never designed for a specific use. And right now, in the day and age that we are right now, we live in like a day and age of subgenres where everything is like a diver's watch, a chronograph. They didn't have any of this. They kind of made a watch that was for every day, because back then, no one had more than a watch. Everyone had one watch. So, like Volkswagen.
Yeah.
So what Fears did is that they made a watch that wasn't for the C-level exec or the high-level exec. They made it for the medium-level exec, which was, I would say, represented by a couple of months of wage. So a watch back then used to cost about a couple months of salary. And right now, their Brunswick, you can find it on their website, is about 4,000 Canadian dollars, 3,200 pounds. They had watches that had some really solid movements in them back in the day. They had they didn't have in-house movements, but they were taking in watch movements from IWC. They had chronographs that were made by Minerva, and they were built to be rock solid. And the way the guy described it is that they're like Mercedes-Benz from the 90s.
Indestructible, right? Ready for war.
Ready for war. So they closed in 1976. And the reason they closed was not because they went bankrupt. Is because the last managing director retired.
Without anyone to take his place?
40 years, it stayed dormant. It just closed. After he just closed. What was so cool was that in history, in Bristol, because it's a fairly small city, there was a corner of the street. And the corner of the street is where the Fears building was, where they used to make these watches. And you can find news articles where they say Fears Corner, because that's where the building was. The thing was ran for 130 years, and the last managing director retired, and then for 40 years it stayed dormant. And now recently, the great-great-great-grandson of the Fears company opened it up again in 2016. And the guy's name is Nicholas Bowman Scargill. He's the fourth managing director. So this guy was in finance, and he was really into watches. He decided to do an apprenticeship with Rolex. And at one point he said, you know what? I don't want to sit on a bench making watches. I want to go and do an entrepreneurship. I want to build my own company. So this guy goes home and he's having lunch with his mom and dad, or his mom, that's the story. And during his lunch with his mom, he says, I really want to open a company. And then she goes, in our family, very Christopher Walken.
Yeah, exactly.
In our family, we have watchmakers.
We used to carry this watch for generations.
Is it a blood thing doing watches?
So to him, it kind of is. He said, maybe it's in me to make watches. So this guy says, I really want to open my own thing. I'm really into watches. He did an apprenticeship at Rolex. Apprenticeship? Wow.
Intern. It was an intern.
It was an intern. it was an intern. Good intern. Good. He was an apprentice at Rolex, so he knew a fair amount about watches. And his mom said, you have family that were watchmakers in the past. And then he was like, you know what? Light bulb moment. This guy goes and starts his own watch company. Takes this company as dormant and starts it up again. What's really inspiring about his rebuild is that this guy sold everything to open his brand. He wanted complete creative control. So he had a couple of Rolexes, he sold everything that wasn't nailed down. And he said, I'm going to make the rebrand what we would have been today. Had we not closed down, had we not retired, we're going to go back to what we would have been today. And more than that, which I think is really cool, his name is Nicholas Scargill. Nicholas Bowman is his name, sorry. Nicholas Bowman Scargill ends up selling his whole collection and whatnot. He ends up paying full price for his own watch because he says, because he believes so much in his brand. sold everything, did not want any investors because he wanted complete control. And more than that, he actually said, I want to make sure that we're making a company watch that I believe in, that our family would have made. So that was super important to him. A big piece about Fears watches you'll look at in terms of their construct. They have these syringe hands that are so unique that they're actually called Fears hands. It actually became the emblem. Kind of like when you say, oh, they have Breguet hands. Those Fears hands, that became their little symbol. That's actually, you can see it on the movement of the watch.
So for people who've never seen a Fear watch, the syringe end, if I'm not mistaken, it's a hollow end, right? So it's just the contour of it, right?
Yes.
So you see straight through the dial.
They're skeletonized.
Yeah, it's nice. I was looking at some image on Fears online while Kevin was talking about the brand.
Right.
And first take I got was looks, at least, I don't know, give me the same Panerai.
I knew you were going to say that because they have this cushion case.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say exactly that. It looks so similar to a Panerai.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same styling, right?
The styling. It is a cushion case. It is 38 millimeters. Here's what's really great. Here, let's cheers. We just served ourselves a drink. All their watches are Swiss. Hand built in the UK. The hands are in-house. It takes a whole day to make one set of hands. It costs...
God damn.
Yes!
God damn.
Thermally blued hands. Very, very interesting in terms of the angle.
Oh, they're thermally blued, and even with
thermally blued
hands. You know
hands.
how hard it is to not bend a metal with heat?
Yes. It costs 90% of their movement.
God damn.
Oh, wow.
The movement is actually the cheapest piece in their watch. Look up the blue one. Look if you can look up the blue Brunswick. There you go.
Oh my God, the sector dial.
Ugh. The watch. The dials and cases.
This is a discontinued model, right?
No, they still make that.
No, sorry. There's a blue one that looks like a sector dial.
No, it's still there.
I didn't see it on the
Go
website.
to Brunswick. If you go to the blue Brunswick.
Continue, sorry, I was trying to find the watch.
The dials and the cases on the Brunswick, just to give you an idea, the dial is highly hand-finished lacquered dials. The case is multiple times more expensive than anything on the watch. And here's why. It only has one flat surface. And that's the rear sapphire crystal. Every other surface on the watch has at least 2 radiuses, so it's curved. The movements come from Switzerland, obviously. They're ETA 7001s, and they're service decorated in the UK.
And an onion crown.
Oh yeah.
It is so nice.
The watches are made to be everyday watches. They have no,
What is the dimension?
38 millimeters. 38 by 38.
So it's like a tiny pocket Panerai.
A tiny pocket Panerai. It's a tiny pocket Panerai. That's the first thing I thought. And here's also part of the construction. The straps come from Belgium. The leather is from Bristol, from their oldest tanner, which provides all the leather
Bristol?
on every cricket ball in the world.
Cricket?
What?
I'm serious.
What?
Wait, this is so cool.
It's pretty much all the cricket ball leather from the UK and India. Because it's the only country who play cricket.
Pretty much.
Okay.
I feel like there's at least one more country that plays cricket.
Ireland.
It's a terrible playoffs. It's always the finals.
They always start with the final.
So
the bracket
they're
is
shipping
always
the leather from
final.
the UK to Belgium to get it back to the UK.
That's right. They take the leather, send it over there so that they can tan it. They send it back. Then they work on it. The movements are there. So what's really cool is that the suppliers that they used to work with them 80, 90 years ago. So they actually are their smallest, business partner, but they go, yeah, we used to do business with your family 80, 90 years ago.
It's amazing.
This. So they go, we're going to continue to do business with you because they believe in this generational family thing. They have this connection. All their watches, here's another thing. All their watches, which is really cool, run on an ongoing serial number. So when you buy it, it doesn't go, oh, you have serial number 1 of this batch. It just keeps going.
That's cool.
So this guy owns number 13, not number 1, which most watch brands do, because he goes, well, he's born on the 13th. Friday the 13th, believe it or not. They also have a program called the Fears Heritage Collection. And the Fears Heritage Division. So you send in your old Fears watch, whatever watch it is, and they'll restore it. And they actually said, we don't make money on it. But what they do is that they take that Fears watch that you send in that's old, they pull out a news article or something from the archive of that watch, and they send it back to you as a copy.
That's great customer service.
Great
And just to add maybe a small tangent here, to go back on our last podcast when I was talking about Nomos, and Nomos, you can have 12 installment, no interest. I'm right now on the fearswatches.com, and they do the same thing. With 10% deposit, it's 12% installment, no interest.
Oh my God.
And straight from the factory, right?
Oh my God.
We like that.
Oh, we like that.
We like that a lot.
Oh, we like that
so
a
it's
lot.
£251 a month for having
Oh my God, that's like $300 a month. That's not so bad.
for the Brunswick.
For how long? A year?
12 payments with 10% down. Nomos is no down.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. 10%
Yeah, it's
down.
nothing, right?
10% down. It's like $300.
Anyway, so yeah, if you want one, just go on the website, installment.
No, I gotta sell some watches because the divorce is more expensive than that watch.
Yeah. Anyway, small tangent, close now.
So you've ruined my life, Karl. So they don't make any money when they restore and repair these old watches, but what they do is that they give you a piece of history back. And you want to know why they do it? Fears was as such an old company, was selling hundreds of thousands of watches. And they say after their old building was bombed during the war. And they said, we don't have much record of everything. So they want people with their old watches to send them in so they can know what it is that they made.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then
This
what
is
they
like the
do is
Primero story.
they go find what your watch was. And they send you the article back. And then you're part of it for free. The Fears Watch Club, they have watch meets up. Everyone comes together. And then what's so cool is that their best customer, one of the best customers, suggested a logo, and the guy goes, okay, you should your logo should be, your name should be, your motto, it should be elegantly understated, it's called. And the guy said, you know what, that's so good. So he patented the name, and he called it elegantly understated. So the watch has incredible construction. You take a watch that is 2,400 pounds without VAT if you're in Europe. And the watch can be compared, seriously, when you look at the specs, when you look at everything that they can do and the way that they construct the watch, you compare it to watches that are twice its price, it is, without a doubt, comparable. It's a lot of money. It's $4,000. I look at what's for $4,000. You can get a Tudor. You can get some Omegas at that price.
Do you get that service and that history behind it?
This guy was talking, he said, when he started the brand, one of the things that he made a mistake on, people were like, so he was sending out these pamphlets of the type of watches they would sell. But the thing was, he goes, people would be like, shouldn't you be spending that money somewhere else? Like on the watch? But he was like, I really believe in this, like sending everyone a handwritten letter. Sending everyone this relationship you have with the watch. They only make a couple hundred watches, few hundred watches a year. So when I listen to this guy talk, or this owner, what he does for his company, it is remarkable. This guy went so far that even through COVID, he was like, I need to make some extra money. He went and took a job on the side, at a grocery store or something, just so he could keep the brand going, because he refuses to take in partners, to lose creative control. And he says it because he doesn't have the last name, because it was through his mother's lineage. He goes, I am from this family of Fears, but I want this brand to continue on after me when the next managing director comes into town. And his watches, they have 2 watches on his site. They make watches they don't make any money on, the Red Cliff that they had before, because that's the city. That's the street in Bristol.
Yeah,
Bristol.
And
Cricket.
This brand, when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I rather have this kind of relationship with a brand, and this is why I reached out. And when I got a chance to actually see one in person, I was like, it was remarkably beautiful, and I think they're totally underestimated.
You got a chance to see it here in Canada or
no.
Europe?
Yeah, I was in England a couple of years back when I would see my brother, who was living in Durham. And then there was a watch shop, and they had a little Fears corner.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, man, these are beautiful watches.
I'm looking right now online. It's so hard to find any old one.
Oh, yeah. There's not.
It's almost impossible.
There was something really cool that I read about them that I wanted to share, that you were talking about inflation. During the 70s, when inflation was hyperinflation or superinflation was rampant in the UK, they had, he was saying that they had old flyers that would have their watches, and everything would say, call us to inquire about the price. And they were looking, why? It was because inflation would be so insane that when they would produce the flyer, by the time it would go out, what they had in an idea as a price would have already gone up.
Wow.
That's
so shitty.
That's crazy. Hyperinflation, bro. You know all about that.
I know all about it.
Sophie, oh yeah.
Man, you can't even find anyone on Chrono 24. There's a zero
Fears
listing.
watches. I don't know, man.
It's nuts.
You gotta look. You gotta find some vintage Fears.
I want one now.
You want one now, huh? Great story, eh?
Crazy story, and they do installment, no interest.
I really.
That's like a free watch.
I really exactly. I am really into a brand that can reach out to me a little bit, and I prefer to have that kind of relationship with a brand over that of something that's maybe more mass produced that has maybe less personality. Fears is pretty cool, and just looking at their history and the way this guy really puts into it.
3 watches.
Well, it's the same watch. It's just 3 different variations. You have the Brunswick in front of you, and he has the blue, the white, and the gold. You have a Redcliffe. They made a quartz. They have this old quartz that they made.
Yeah, but the course I was reading, it's only 100 pieces a year.
1,000. They made 1,000 because it had to do with 1,000 days that they had been open or something like that. And they made it. They priced it to what the watch would have been priced due to inflation back then, and they ended up losing money on it.
Yeah, it's not available anymore.
No, it's not available. They only have that's it because they only make a few hundred watches a year. That's what I really love about this brand. It's family owned, family run.
Question for you.
Yeah.
So right now I see there's a white dial with gold case, gold hands. There's the blue dial and stainless case and hand, and there's the white dial and the blue hands.
Yeah.
If you had to get one.
The blue.
Blue dial?
100%. The number layout on the dial, they only have the 10, 2, 4, 6, 8.
Yeah.
The blue on that, if you get a chance to zoom in on that and you're able to see the finishing of that dial, the difference in the bullseye that's there in between the Fears hands that is on that cushion case. It is remarkable. And what's really great is that the case, the watch, it's not because they copied Panerai, right? As that cushion case, but that watch was around for a very long time in terms of what it wanted to do as a brand. And they wanted to make an everyday watch. That's it. We just want to make an everyday watch. That's what I'm looking. That's a brand I'm really into right now, and
for good reasons.
And I might sell my Autodromo from last episode with a few others to
finance one of those.
Well, yeah, so I don't get divorced.
It's interesting. I mean, I've looked at that watch before this podcast, and obviously not knowing any story, there isn't much you can get from the website. Once you get into the stories, it's the story that always gets me.
Pretty crazy.
So
it's a story that always gets me. So it's quite cool.
Thank you for that, Kevin.
You're welcome.
And on that, I think we'll close this one today.
Yeah,
great, man. Guys, you made it.
It was fun.
You made it through episode 4.
Cheers.
Four already, so many. I can't count.
Such a mouthful.
I don't have that many fingers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
And,
Cheers.
Cheers.
We'll see you in episode 5.
We'll see you in the next one.
If you make it.